Hi, guys. Can I give a little bit of unsolicited advice to the DNC and to Democrats in general? I I think we have to learn from past stuff. I want to read you something. Now, this is from Wisconsin, and what it shows is they have the turnout data now. And the turnout data shows that, as was the case with almost everywhere else, not just Wisconsin, that there was no great big surge in GOP turnout, meaning Trump didn't really get lots of new voters. Uh, but there was a drop off for Democrats from 2020. It is absolutely essential that you dig into those numbers and find out why this happened. Um, I've said this before, and I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of justice. In 2016, a lot of people stayed home and they were angry at themselves because of what we got with Trump. So they showed up in 2020. They were voting for justice. They were told that no one is above the law. They were told that Democrats would fix this, that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would have a cabinet, and that Democrats would help, and that Trump would see justice with his various crimes. This was even before the really big crimes that we knew about, before the stolen documents, before the January 6th insurrection and treason. This was just the other horrible stuff. Oh, I don't know, like mainly the million or so plus COVID deaths, most of which were preventable, but Trump lied. I mean, we can go down the litany of the Trump crimes and failures and lies. And in 2016, the people who stayed home were kicking themselves. And then we know a lot of people switched sides and did the right thing in 2020. But what about the people who stayed home? Okay. They stayed home in 2024. They showed up in 2020, voting for justice, voting to save this country from MAGA, Putin, Trump, even before they knew all the worst of this stuff. Okay? They knew about the Mueller report. They knew that Russia had gotten involved. They knew that there was collusion between Trump and his people and the Russians. They knew this. This all came out. And these weren't the MAGA people in denial, and these were not the uninformed people that don't pay attention to news and only listen to what's on Fox News and believe that crap. And I can say that as someone who used to be on Fox News a lot for like 17 years. And Trump had me kicked off because I was telling some uncomfortable truths about him. So these people who stayed home in 2024, they showed up in 2020, they stayed home in 2024 because they saw that we didn't get justice. They saw that Merrick Garland was going to sit on his hands, not just be incompetent, but probably complicit. They gave him the benefit of the doubt for a while. They saw that the January 6th committee did good work, got started about a year and a half too late. They saw media that they had trusted and relied on, one by one, fall into the both sidesism, answering corporate bosses rather than the editorial and journalism folks. They saw this and they gave up. These are the people who maybe have not been regular voters their entire life. And they said, you know what? We think all of them, all the politicians are dirty. They're all the same. They're all protecting each other. They're bought off. They voted for justice in 2020. They didn't get it, so they stayed home in 2024. That is, I think, the best explanation about what happened. It wasn't because Joe Biden passed the baton to Kamala Harris in the summer. That was risky. There's no question about it. And the way it was done was disgusting. I think there were also a number of folks, by the way, and I don't say this lightly, but there are a lot of folks I think that were turned off by that process and how public the shivving of, sticking the shiv in Joe Biden's back was by people. And even we heard that he was shocked and crushed. You had Pelosi and people like that out there just doing a job on him. So people who maybe had not been regular voters their whole lives, maybe didn't vote in 2016. They knew what was at stake in 2020, and they did the right thing. They did their job. They understood the mission. They were good Americans, patriots, all of that. Even though Trump and Louis DeJoy, Putin, all the people trying to keep them from voting, they did their jobs. They showed up and they voted like Americans are supposed to do. And when they saw that Trump was indeed above the law, they didn't show up to vote in 2024. They were done. They'd given up. That is why Trump is going to be president again in 1 week. I firmly believe this. And I think that when you dig into the numbers and you see how close it was, it's just a sliver of a popular vote. And yes, I think Trump cheated in key battleground states. The Electoral College makes it easier to cheat. We know that. Okay? But disappointed voters, disappointed justice voters, feeling they were betrayed, feeling like they were misled and lied to, simply didn't show up in 2024. I know, and you can say, well, then they're terrible, they're horrible. Well, say what you want about them. It doesn't matter. If you're going to be a political professional, you have to look at the numbers. You can say what you want about these people as individuals. You can say, I hate them. They're unpatriotic. Or look, now they did this. Well, yeah, they did do this. But we know why now. We know why. So I think that's important for the DNC to look at and to be honest with themselves about. And by the time Trump was able to announce that he was running again, that's when we were in real trouble. And I've said that before on this channel. He was automatically going to be the nominee, and any nominee from the party in this 50-50 culture that we live in now, political culture. Well, we haven't had landslides in a very long time. We're a 50-50 nation. He already started at or near that mark. And we were only then playing in the margins. And I think Democrats failed to understand that. They were running it like everything is from the ground up, starting from scratch. Doesn't happen like that. Doesn't happen like that. And we had Kamala Harris, who was running as a prosecutor against a felon. And she said, I've dealt with his type before. It was fantastic. And she started at that same 50% mark. So then we're fighting for the margins. We already have the divide of the people we know will vote MAGA, the other people who always vote Democrat. It's those margins in the middle. So if you're running on as a prosecutor, running against the felon, it was a great message, by the way, but we weren't getting justice. The felon was allowed to run. And that was the failure of Merrick Garland. And the failure of Democrats maybe for getting started too late with the January 6th committee in Congress. So I think you have to do an accurate autopsy. I don't know if they have the right people doing it. A lot of the people at the DNC, there's been some murmurs lately and some things printed about some of the consultants that they had on board and some of the people with the campaign. And I mean, Republicans have this too, if you remember the Romney race. People stuffing their pockets full of money and not really spending it to do the job they're hired to do. Going all Lincoln Project like that, acting like you're in the fight while you're building your generational wealth. There needs to be an overhaul of the political consultant class. There just does. And a little something about the congressional races, and I'm going to say this carefully, but I've seen this in a number of cases in this last cycle. There might be a list that people running in large primaries, congressional primaries, have access to of so-called professionals that really just sit their candidate down and have them dialing for dollars because these guys get a cut and they keep them from doing the other things that you're supposed to do in a campaign. Now, it is true, it takes a lot of effort and time to do the fundraising, and it is necessary. But it cannot be the entirety of a campaign. And I think the DNC needs to do a top to bottom review of what they consider consultants, campaign managers, or whatever to go out to these campaigns, who they are recommending. I guess they serve as a little bit of a clearinghouse, but they have a list of names that they need to vet a little bit better. My suggestion there. Republicans could do the same thing, but I don't work for them anymore. So I'm just looking at what Democrats can do. I see that they've announced that they've got a new team to do rapid response in social media, now starting with Trump's inauguration. I kind of thought maybe they had that in place before, but great idea. I hope you don't get bogged down in bureaucracy. That is something, unfortunately, that can happen with the national parties and even state parties. Sometimes when you grow quickly and you stop being results oriented, and you start becoming a bureaucracy. And some of that maybe is to keep tabs on people, which apparently doesn't happen at the national level from what we're hearing, to make sure that they're not pocketing the money. Citizens United also, making it okay to put money into these super PACs, everything just blindly, anonymously, or the big corporations can give as much as they want. So people give to a super PAC, and then you don't really necessarily know where the money goes. It ends up in a lot of pockets to build generational wealth. People can put ads up that they say are ads, just videos on social media, to get you all excited about it and tell you to send money. And then you maybe down the road hear of a big number, a generic big number, about how much it costs for this project, to put this ad, to do this for this particular race. And they'll have something maybe called production cost. Well, that's where a lot of money ends up in pockets that shouldn't. Okay? What you need to look for is the actual ad buy. How much of the money was spent on the buy for TV, for radio, for digital, not production or anything. And that's how you know. That's how you know. Because they bury a lot of this stuff. Maybe they shoot money to their friends. And so people are pocketing a lot of money. They'll put, buy a little bit of on-air time or digital time, but the rest goes into pockets or to pay off some friends. And then those friends in turn send them business. It's called the consultant kickback culture. And it is alive and well in both parties and those in between. Sorry, but that's the truth. I'm not revealing secrets that are going to get me in trouble. I mean, I'm sure the consultants hate it, the people that do this, but there needs to be a real audit on this stuff. And maybe the DNC could start some kind of a program, even though I guess it's not legally necessary. But if you are going to get help or referrals from them, if they're going to refer you to people, whether you're a super PAC, consultant, they should have some sort of an office in place where this can be audited, where they can make sure that if you are accepting money from people to ostensibly run ads, okay, you're a super PAC, you run ads, demand an audit, an ongoing audit, to keep tabs on how much of the money actually ends up paying for on-air time or digital time. By the way, a TV ad would be 30 seconds, maybe a minute. If you see something on Twitter that someone says, oh, this is a great ad, and that ad is 2.5 minutes long, it's not on TV. So that automatically means digital, okay? Consider the fact that most older people, they might watch Fox News, but they're not online. They're not on Twitter. They don't know what Blue Sky is. They might be on Facebook. So it's easy to kind of hide what's really being spent or to be dishonest about it. And if you're seeing them on Twitter, seeing these ads and saying, hey, send us money so we can air these ads, you're already on their side. They don't need to convince you, but you need to go for the persuadable voters. Otherwise, we're in kind of a circle jerk here. Excuse my French, but that's what it is. Energizing the base is important. but there's a lot of sleight of hand going on, and it's happening on both sides. So I think it would be wise for the DNC, and maybe, and we've seen, some of the people running for chair talk about this, but I think they should take it on very, very directly, because a lot of people gave a lot of money thinking they were helping to elect Democrats and defeat Donald Trump. And it really went to make a lot of people very, very rich. And I'm not against people who do good work making good money, but it got over the top ridiculous. And I've talked about this before. You all know who I'm talking about, but I'm actually talking about just everybody at this point. There are a few examples, but it's also not fair to candidates. You know, if you're running for office and people are giving you money, and you find out later after you lose that a lot of that money ended up in the pockets of the consultants or the vendors rather than where it was supposed to go. And we're supposed to just take people at their words. So I'll be talking about this more, and I do know what I'm talking about. I don't want to keep naming names, but there can be a lot more done on earned media. But I think they need really, really tight control on the consultants. Let Trump be the one where the people pocket the money instead of spending it to elect Republicans. I'm fine with that.